Joe, I think we're live.
Wonderful.
Hello,
Hey,
everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Happy Wednesday. Hi, I'm Christina Pan. Welcome to my LinkedIn Live podcast. I'm an executive coach, and I specialize in helping AI CEOs, founders, and senior executives get strategic clarity and conviction in your journey pioneering where there are no precedents by strategically leveraging your zone of genius. We will open it up to Q&A at the end, so feel free to post your questions in the comments along the way. And now I'm so excited to have Joe Heitzeberg here today. Joe is the founder of AI Tinkerers, which was started pre-ChatGPT. And
Yes, indeed.
And it's a curated global network of more than 100,000 hands-on AI builders across 220 cities. And it's more than just a network. Joe is really creating a movement. He is bringing together pioneering engineers, researchers, founders, and operators who build with frontier AI, demo working systems, pressure test new tools, and share the hard-won lessons that become practical signal for the field. Joe is a serial entrepreneur and angel investor. He's also a serial CEO. Joe co-founded CrowdCow, founded MediaPiston, which was acquired by oDesk Upwork, and founded Snapvine, which was acquired by Whitepages. Joe also co-founded and served as president of Madrona Venture Labs, where he helped launch Spare5, which was later Mighty AI, an AI training data company acquired by Uber in 2019. Joe is a 2019 Alumni Impact Award recipient from the University of Washington's Paul G. Allen School of Computer Science and Engineering. He holds a BS in Computer Science from UW and an MBA from MIT Sloan. Across Joe's career, a common thread has been using technology to orchestrate trust, quality, and opportunity between people and unlocking potential that wouldn't otherwise exist. And so Joe and I actually know each other from over 20 years ago. When we went to business school at MIT Sloan, we overlapped a year. He was a year ahead of me. And one thing that stood out to me was Joe was one of the top standout leaders when we were at Sloan, including being president of the Media Tech Club. And so today we are excited to spark your minds on non-obvious insights on how tinkering could be high leverage for you personally as a senior executive and for your team and organization. As AI is removing constraints, there is no playbook, and you are rewriting roles with your team and rewiring your company's DNA in this paradigm shift. Joe, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thanks, Christina. It's good to be here and to see you again after all these years. And of course, we've spoken many times during these years, but reminding me that we're old.
We're wise. We're wise.
We're wise.
Yes.
Yeah, very wise. Over 20 years ago. Yeah, it's amazing to see you, and it's a great intro on what's happening in AI and why it's important to be a builder again, even if you're in management, even if you're a leader. Everything's being rewritten. So this is why I've had on the AI Tinkers website, since it sounded cheesy, now it doesn't sound cheesy, but from day one, which was in the future, everyone will be an AI tinkerer. So just by way of my tinkering, I was in the ChatGPT private beta. I think my first invoice paid to OpenAI was actually in the year 2020. So this was a lot of tinkering well before ChatGPT kind of blew the doors open. And I started AI Tinkerers because I realized that through large models and deep learning, as software people, we can now solve problems that you would normally say are just not solvable with software. So like human intelligence problems. That was very inspiring to me. I knew it would be a big deal. But using these tools even now, but especially then, it's not obvious. It is not obvious how you rewire your company to take advantage of it without a security problem, or how do you leverage your employees? They're doing their job totally differently. How do you get the most leverage? It's a completely game-changing technology wave that we're now just barely starting, I think. And so I knew that by getting together with people who were excited about that and had a technical foundation to actually learn and innovate and share that would be super valuable. And it was more valuable than I thought, and more exciting than I thought, actually. And so we've grown around the world. As you mentioned, over 100,000 people have come to our meetups in person, and 200 cities. I think there's 7 meetups happening this 24-hour period we're in. We're launching in Reykjavik. We're in Tokyo. We're all over. But I think the most important thing is, like, for me, is that many of the things that are now that you read about and that are sponsoring the community or involved in a higher level way, they actually started out as a demo on a laptop at an AI Tinkerers 3 years ago or 2 years ago. Many such examples. And I'll just mention one because it's near to my heart. Early on in the Seattle chapter of AI Tinkerers, where we started, we had a roster of speakers. It was an overflowing room with a wait list of just builders. And this guy who was admitted, he was in the room, but he had just gotten something working. And he came up to me with his laptop and said, "Hey, Joe, can I present tonight?" And I was like, "Well, you're not on the roster, but yeah, I want to see what you got." So he showed me his demo. I thought it was amazing. Yesterday, they announced a $28 million fundraise, and they've been a great partner for us over those 2 years, sponsoring and involving and evolving their product and getting meeting customers through the network, et cetera. They've set standards now with the likes of Google and Oracle and Microsoft. They're setting standards in industry with their technology. And so it's inspiring to see that kind of impact that can start by just tinkering, just jump in and start building. So really, proud of that and many other examples like them. Copilot Kit.
Wow, that is amazing, Joe. Congratulations. I know you have many stories like that. I was going to ask you about OpenClaw later, which is another story. But yes, you were super early on, right? That's amazing.
Yeah.
You were working with ChatGPT in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
way before most people, and that you had the foresight to see this wave before, everyone was really into like all this
Mm-hmm.
AI stuff, post ChatGPT coming out publicly.
Yeah.
So, from your vantage point, right, you see hundreds of AI projects through AI Tinkerers,
Mm-hmm.
including the one you just mentioned that just got like that 28 million in funding.
Mm-hmm.
What trends are you seeing that VCs or Twitter and X aren't talking about yet?
Well, I think the delta between like something not talked about and talked about is approximately a week, maybe a month. And that's the good news, is like, if you feel behind in AI, like, oh, how do I catch up? Just jump in, start building. You're no more than 2 or 3 months behind anything state of the art right now. It wasn't the case a year ago, but I do feel that way now. But having said that, I think some of the big trends, and I'm kind of like putting this through the lens of a more enterprise audience that's more your audience and your people. But and many of this has been out there. I don't know how widely read. Like people like Aaron Levy, if you want to read, is great for this. Ryan Carson, if you're more on the builder side, is amazing for the technical aspects of the trend. And Brian Chesky from Airbnb talks about management trends and future work. But some of these things that I believe are very much in the communities, like tinkering and full on energy is obviously, like, if you were using chat and you were building systems for knowledge chat, that's all gone towards workflow agents. Like, let's get work done. Same kind of infrastructure, but let's actually push the buttons and get the work done. That is real. Anyone who had a bad experience with chat and thinks that's not going to work is probably wrong. It's going to work. It's working. So the early indicators are that it's not only going to work, that it is working, and that businesses that are rolling that out are seeing an inflection in their business. And I see this too. AI Tinkerers, had in January 500,000 people to the website. Last 30 days, over 1.5 million to the website. So we've always had growth, but it's just gone up. And what is that? That's the wider world saying, "Oh, I heard this is working, or it is working, but I need help searching and finding us because we're a network of experts." So chat going towards workflow agents is one. Software engineering has been talked about a lot, but this is totally true. It's a sandwich where if you were an engineer or you are an engineer, you're now suddenly spending your time upfront on requirements or at the very end on deployment or validation. Totally true. In our group, where it's all leading edge people, almost nobody's looking at code. They're building agents to look at code so they can scale up. 3, context itself is becoming the valuable thing. And this is one that I think people are talking less about that is true. It's finally this collective realization that like, oh, it's your context of your business that is the valuable part, not the frontier models are always there. They're going to get better. They're going to get cheaper. They're going to get faster. And you're not going to compete with them. But the thing that you have in your business is context. The information that's in your employees' heads, it's in your CRM, that's in your knowledge of how to run and make decisions. That context is king. And so as a result, there's a lot of work right now on what is the best way to unlock that context for the agents without unlocking it to our competitors, right? Or to, et cetera. How do we do it in a way that's secure and authorized and efficient and actually works so that we can get the value in this automation? I think, other things like, it's always been my personal sadness when I started the group. Actually, it was like there was only one AI. It was OpenAI, and I loved it. It was great, but you can't have like a major trend or something, world changing if it's just one company. And you have to remember back in 2020, the community was really we would actually talk about this. Like we would talk about the tech, and then as people were going home, they'd say, well, I really hope one day there's like open source or a competitor. I mean, really. And the reason they would say that is because we were all thinking like, is it even possible that there'll be a competitor? If it takes millions of dollars to train this stuff, open source doesn't have budget, who's going to pay? And is it such a proprietary thing? So anyways, that is not true. In fact, for the last 4 years, OpenAI has been ahead. Anthropic has pulled on par or ahead with engineering. Gemini is right on the tail, and then open source is no more than 3 months behind, or 2 months, or in some cases on par with certain benchmarks. And so it's an exciting, vibrant world with lots of things and billions of dollars being spent to make that even more diverse. You've got NVIDIA promoting their Nemotron models, which no one is talking about, but should be. This is like the open source that's not from China, if you care about that issue. But if it has the backing of NVIDIA to produce a truly open alternative so that you can have proprietary and open source models together, that's coming, and it's going to be a big deal. A lot of people are starting to use that and dabble with it and talk about it, but that's kind of under the radar, and it's really exciting. As a result of all of that and open source, I think this local first private is coming back as a trend. So if context is king and that's the thing that's your moat or that's special in your company, then wouldn't you want to run that on an open source model privately in your own cloud, potentially, right? That might be the way that, if you squint, that might be the way you have a business 5 years from now that's yours, right? Another big trend, of course, is finally this year, all of the non-engineers are going to become builders of agents and operators of agents. Last year was not the case. If you wanted to build an agentic workflow or whatever, the vibe coding thing didn't really work, and still has big problems, but increasingly there is infrastructure that will take care of the architecture, and you can have your cake and eat it too. That's real. And so a lot of people are jumping in. I think that's really exciting. We can all be builders. I think those are the main ones. I mean, deployment is still hard. Security is still hard. How do you change manage to take advantage of this stuff in a larger organization where it's multiplayer and there's people that need to change how they work, and you've got a lot of them? All of these unsolved problems are big topics they're hard unsolved problems.
Oh, yes. Oh, thanks. So a couple of questions I had related. So when you talked about this is a year non-engineers can be coding, seems like a perfect inflection for, everyone to be able to do tinkering, which is the whole theme of this episode, right? And do you have any insight into like how executives and their teams would be highest leverage in using that, especially if non-engineers, and related to the whole context?
Yeah. And if you look at the companies who are moving the fastest and experiencing that inflection that I mentioned, they're the ones that have gone like all in. They've said, it's not like, hey, this quarter we're going to do one half day build day and then go back to work as normal. They're the ones that have said, work as normal ended, and we're cutting over ripping the Band-Aid off, and this is the new way we work. Everybody's required to figure out how to automate their job. And it's sort of like you either do that or you're out, because there's no waiting. There's an urgency. So this notion of AI founder mode, Brian Chesky talks about is like effectively, like if you are an executive and your world is management through lots of meetings, it's stop. You need to go build. And it makes sense, right? The way that we're going to create ways of work for our employees that we manage has to be figured out by people who understand the business at the highest level and across. And it can't be built unless you're actually a practitioner working with this stuff. That's just, I think there is an observable trend among the companies that are winning, where, people who weren't coding but once coded are coding again, like people at very high level, right? Mark Zuckerberg is making check-ins at Meta again, and many others. I think the companies that really, my friend is an unnamed Fortune 50 major enterprise 2,000 person team, executive at Amazon for years, not coding for decades, is coding. And his team is moving fast, and that's exciting.
I'm seeing that trend too. So whether or not you were, you're an executive who had an engineering background or not, right? Like, because the people you just named, they did have engineering background, like Mark Zuckerberg or yes. Actually, no, Brian, not design background.
Yeah, he designed it. Yeah.
Are you also talking about people who are capable of understanding technical thoughts, but they were not engineers as well?
Yeah, I do think there is some wiggle room there. I wouldn't have said this last year. Last year was too many pitfalls and dead ends. This year it works well enough where, here's the way to look at it. Like, if you get stuck, well, thank goodness you have the world's best software architect engineer right there almost for free. Just ask it a question. It'll explain things. If you didn't understand the answer, ask it to explain it. And you can iterate like that. And there are no stop signs. There are no dead ends when you have somebody, an AI that's that incredibly attentive and obedient and free to work for you, right? So that's why you have to jump in, you have to experience that, and then you start getting it going. And I warn you, not only it removes immediately all the fear that you may have, it becomes addictive because it's such an endorphin rush. It's such a reward function. Like, wow, it did it. It worked. Oh my gosh, I can just change it. And then you start to think about business problems that for decades you've said are never going to get prioritized. They're too far away. You're like, wait a minute, maybe we can have those too. So it becomes, you have to do that. A lot of the fear also of well, is this just going to replace jobs? I think also goes away. The people who are deep in are not worried about that because they're building the things that were so far down the priority list that didn't have a business case, would have never had a business case with a human. I have a agentic workflow for AI tinkerers. We're a very small organization. When I launched it, it created 183 fully edited videos across all of our cities in a few hours. There's no human process that I could pay money for that could assemble that much human to work in those many hours to produce those many videos. That's purely incremental. That's just one example. So the incremental is hard to understand and measure and predict, but get in there, start building, you'll start to see it. And that's where it gets exciting and less fearsome.
Oh, I love all the hopeful possibilities. So
you're only gonna get positive, from me.
Yeah, and it's great to see that because I think it's a great example for people to see. Once you are in the thick of it, you start having so much hope, or you have so much hope. Not start. And that. So what I'm hearing in that example of the 183 videos is it was something additive, like creating new value that didn't exist before. Is that right? As opposed to trying to capture value that already exists and we're fighting for the same pie. It's
be like
pie that didn't exist.
Your first reaction, if you're just doing some role in a company as a white collar, maybe you experience some of the, I can make the workflow. Oh, you're like, wait, who's going to pay me when this thing can get it done? Oh my God. And then you're worried, but then you have to think, okay, what does the business need? What are things we couldn't have gotten to before? You start building those too, and you realize, oh, we can grow. That's why these companies, I said, are hitting these massive inflection points. They're able to incrementally grow revenue. It's not about cost cutting, right? Because they're able to use the AI to do all those things, to bring the roadmap in and to grow. That's exciting. That's not replacing jobs. That's growing your business, right? And I think that's the thing that people aren't seeing and talking about, but the people who are doing it are experiencing.
That is an amazing, huge insight there. And so, related to that, what have you, or what do people personally learn um, that you can only learn by building, and that you can't learn by listening to podcasts, even this one, or reading and not
Yeah.
building?
You can build the intuition for kind of what's possible and what's hard and too hard and what's easy. And it's not obvious until you play with it. Like, um,
And how
there
does
was the funny one that it was like, the question that this has been a meme of most people talking about this one. That's like, if you ask the AI, like, hey, I'm in my car. Uh, it's a 5-minute walk to the car wash or a 1-minute drive. What should I do? And the AI says, oh, you should walk to the car wash. That there's a problem with that because you're not going to be able to wash your car. If you're in your car, you're going to the car wash probably to wash your car. Right? And the AI is too dumb to figure that out. Yet it can vibe code this video editing thing I described, right, in a matter of a couple of hours. Okay. And you don't develop that intuition. You might think, well, this little thing it failed on this little task. So I'm not going to try the more ambitious one. That would be a mistake. You have to try these ideas, and you're the domain expert of your business. So you're going to fill a whiteboard with ideas and then just go divide and conquer, try them, or kick off multiple agents and see what works. It costs almost nothing. It takes almost no time. Why wouldn't you do that?
Mm. So the highest leverage seems to be helping you, like anyone as a senior executive, hone their judgment.
Yeah.
Right?
I think judgment is big, and it's changing over time, which means you have to constantly be tinkering. And when new models come out, you have to try them. And this is where it's a new kind of job now, right? Because no one had that job to like evaluate technology every week. But if you don't, you're going to fall behind. So this is an emerging job category within large organizations that didn't exist. I don't even know what the job title is. It's emerging, you know. I've heard AI chief of staff. I've heard, there's AI product engineer, AI product manager, AI. Yeah. So but it all boils down to like, just jump in and build, learn, iterate, ship.
Yes. From what you were saying, it doesn't sound like a one person's role or title. It sounds like everyone's role.
I think so. I think there's no downside to that, and very little incremental cost to doing that, and a lot of opportunity unlock. Again, the people in your organization doing their job probably know best what's dropping on the floor. And if they get experience using the AI, they're the ones that are going to self-solve those opportunities. It's not going to come through some committee or process.
Okay, so I have two questions, one on the individual level, one on a team level. On the individual level, for senior execs listening, what is the best way to just jump in and start tinkering? Is it to join AI Tinkers? Is it ask Claude Code how to do something? What's your recommendation?
It's probably just start building. Yeah, ask Claude Code, install it, start using it. Honestly, get an intuition directly. Other things you do organizationally include, like, I do think the builder day idea is interesting. Like, hey, just carve out the time, empower people, let them try things, and have a little contest, and give little awards for the most interesting things. And the ones that are truly interesting, keep investing in those, and maybe figure out a way to roll them out across the organization. So we developed a skill that makes this thing, but it was a quick prototype, didn't quite work, but it has promise. And people voted, oh, that was the best one. Okay, cool. Then take that and make it an initiative to see if we can roll it out. That's a process that enterprises are using, I think, successfully. And that's one that, frankly, if you're not already doing that process, or you have to meet 10 times to decide it's a next quarter activity, you're moving too slow, right? You should figure out how to get that going immediately, because the time value of pulling those improvements up in your business and then compounding that is too great to not do immediately.
So earlier you had said, a random builder day or hackathon day every now and then is not good enough.
Well,
So
it's not good enough, but it's a start. It's an easy start, I think, for organizations. But if you're saying that's what we're doing to check the box for AI this quarter, that's, I don't think, enough.
yeah, what is a winning company what does their cadence look like?
Well, and again, it's maybe unfair because they're in tech already. They're used to having to be disrupted and moving fast and grabbing market share and all of that. But those companies that are winning said, we're not going to tiptoe our way into this with like a builder day and then graduate and then, reorg a little bit. They're just like, today is the day we're all AI pilled. Everyone has to automate their job. And if you're not immediately switched over to that mode of working, we're done. They're like very, it's a wartime mode move.
Yes, I see that too a lot. With the urgency to move fast.
Yeah.
And our pre-call prep for this podcast, you had mentioned related to the team topic,
Mhm.
that transformation inside companies is like what is most different about this technology wave, versus
Yeah.
the dot-com era or mobile or cloud.
Yeah.
Can you expand more on that? Like,
Yeah,
why
I think that's right. I mean, I think intranet was kind of distribution, right? You had a business that was local, you can now be global, et cetera. You could transact in new ways 24/7, et cetera. Like mobile was just like bringing that same businesses to your pocket and some incremental things, but AI is different because you have to imagine the world today is there's so much like knowledge work that requires human judgment. And I sign into a terminal as my role, and I move the mouse around, and I click, and I input data, and I'm moving from one software system to another, or answering a phone call and reacting. And it's an extremely expensive, human resource to do that. AI can now do much of that. Okay, so that implies that, well, if you are getting paid to like log in and do this with your arms and your brain, that's probably not optimal. Like your time is better spent figuring out of all the tasks you do during the day, if some significant portion of them can be done by AI infinitely cheaper and faster and at more scaled, then you're irresponsible to not do the work to figure out which of those tasks can be and which can't be, and to figure out how to automate and scale the ones that can be. And the way to do that is to devote the time to it, to understand the tools, to prototype, to test, and to iterate your way to, aha, I found a workflow that works. We can scale this one. Now, I, as the human, I'm still going to do the high value ones, but maybe I can do more of the high value ones now. Maybe we should actually do more marketing to get those pesky customers that were difficult. The service they were too expensive to service. Maybe they're not too expensive to service anymore because we're servicing some of the other customers for almost free now. And then, like I said before, not just the existing work list, because that's scary. Like, what am I going to do when AGI comes and all of them are done? But in that process of experiments and iteration, I promise you, there are creative people, on your teams or the executives themselves who know, like, oh, I get an intuition now for what's possible, and we can do stuff that we never dreamed of doing because it just didn't have a business case. It's like a task type or a business thing that's too seasonal. So it just doesn't amortize the cost of training and staffing, and it just doesn't make sense. It now makes sense because the cost of servicing is automation. So maybe we should try some of those ideas too. And some of those might be the thing that grows the business incrementally, right? And those are huge unlocks. And if you're not doing it, your competitor is doing it, right? So the urgency to go not only figure out what can be automated because it's irresponsible not to, and to discover these incremental opportunities is now.
These opportunities that are highly additive and like creating new value. And I mean, this is probably a bigger conversation, but do you have like maybe a quick pointer for like execs who are listening to this and they're like, yeah, this is what we need in our organization to like really infuse it's a different mindset, right? And mentality to have your org go from like every quarter builder day hackathon to like, this is our lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, it does imply like a culture shift almost if you're really changing. Like my work is not, I am the highly trained person that does a thing. Maybe I'm still for some of the work in the interim, but I have a new job description. Everyone has a new job description if the way I describe it, which is I also figure out how to create and orchestrate agents to do at least a piece of my work. And that's a new job description.
New value, as you said. Yes.
There wasn't a job you could go hire. There wasn't a job that existed a few years ago. And now it's a job that we all benefit by having every single person have a portion of their job be that. So I think that's interesting.
So having that reframing in your mind, is that the first place to start for people?
Yeah, to start is the reframing. Just start, right? Yeah.
Yes, I love how you told me before. Just get in and swim. That's your mantra.
It is, because this wave is coming, and look, as other people figure stuff out, you're going to learn from them only if you're in there swimming too. Then you're going to be in those conversations you're going to hear. Now, again, I started AI Tinkerers because of that, because the value of, like, you know, in every room of AI Tinkerers, something new dropped that morning that's exciting and fundamentally interesting, whatever it was, some voice thing or anything. And we can always just, in a room of any number of tinkerers, 100 people, just say, raise your hand if you've played with that already, and 5 hands go up, and, like, you know, we can just ask a question really quick, and we can say, oh, let's have a breakout group after the main meetup, and anyone interested in that, go hang out with these 5 people, let's go learn. Or they'll come up on stage and present, like, yeah, I did a bake off with all these other things, and yeah, the marketing, you know, on Twitter with the benchmarks are not true, it actually failed over on this one, you know, and I proved it. And it's like, wow, these are really valuable insights only from tinkering and sharing with others who are also tinkering. So sometimes you have something to share, sometimes they do. And that's the only way that you're going to get is to, within your organization, to get that vibe going, is to have everybody doing that, so they can each inspire and push each other. And then when something wins, you can quickly adapt it or adopt it for the whole organization.
Oh, and it sounds like everyone could use a little sprinkling of knowing people like AI tinkerers.
Well, yeah, and we can definitely help with that. I think a lot of, as I mentioned, like, the traffic to our website is significantly higher than the people going to our meetups. You could think of us as, you know, and again, we're not like other meetups by design, like from the beginning, builders, active builders. When ChatGPT came out, and you know, I was there with the internet, I was there with mobile. What happens every time there's a big wave and the doors open is everybody wants to go to the meetup, and there's lots of events that are more like parties, you know, it's like networking.
Yes.
AI Tinkers is the opposite of that. We're like, our members don't enjoy that. We're busy building, and it's an incredible time to build. Our meetup is the one where everyone's kind of worth talking to, because it's curated. It's like, I know that whoever I randomly sit down to my left or right, is going to be an expert on something interesting, and I'm an expert on something else, and we can share. Versus the experience you've all had at certain networking events where you're like talking to somebody and you're like assessing, are they worth talking to? And then you're like, okay, how do I get out of this conversation? That's an uncomfortable thing that happens multiple times, and it never, at most meetups, does not happen at AI Tinkerers, because we curate. So if you are jumping in, though, to the realm of, like, we've got a big, you know, Fortune 1000 company, and we've got massive assets and a huge data asset, a massive team, and this is a huge opportunity. It's also scary, and it's complex, and it's overwhelming. We need help. We may be able to help. We are a community of only frontier AI builders, engineers, advisors, and people who can really, really help. And we increasingly see, like I said, the delta between the traffic on our website and our community is people wanting our help. And so we're going to be able to help some of those people in certain cases, I think, with world-class, you know, the people who literally invented this stuff. You mentioned Peter Steinberger. He was going to our meetup in London for months.
Created OpenClaw for people.
OpenClaw, which is kind of a big deal. I was in the Bay Area, and a tinkerer there said, oh yeah, isn't that crazy? Like, I know Peter. He was like, I met him in London. AI Tinkers. He went to all the time, and like tinkering on other stuff before OpenClaw, leading up to OpenClaw. And it's that kind of community of really people who are on the cutting edge, as I mentioned, and the ones who've gone on to be leaders. They're literally setting the standards. We have another guy in Seattle whose standards are being adopted by every major browser company to help with enterprise AI automation. He literally invented it. He goes to our meetup. He's consulting in that area, building the sort of connective layer for enterprise that helps you enable the agents, but not like exfil your data, you know, and to be more well-behaved in a multiplayer environment. He invented it. he's the world expert. Now he's consulting. Be someone I would love to help if you have that problem. How do we create that middleware to have the agents play and work with our humans?
Oh, okay. That's awesome. That like so one does not qualify to be an AI tinkerer themselves because I remember you told me it was a pretty high bar,
Yeah. When you say like, could you go to an AI Tinkers meetup? I that way isn't I didn't say yes is because
yeah.
we, it is a curated meetup. We filter to try to fill the room with the best and most engaged people who can contribute. And in many of the top cities, such as London or Toronto, in Toronto, for most of the last 1 year, every meetup has a wait list of over 700 people. And looking at that wait list it has incredible people on the list. So it is it's not easy. And we're creating more tracks now for that. So we have a dedicated track just for dev tooling. We have a dedicated track just for go-to-market engineering, which is like, okay, if you're starting a company, how do you use AI to grow product-led growth?
Yes.
For the sales team, how do you have an AI marketing team, and how do you use generative media to create 10,000 TikTok ads every single day? It's kind of like that kind of tinkering with marketing and growth, but it's very builder focused. We're doing tracks where subsets of the community can meet more often, and we can have more capacity. I think serve more capacity.
Mm. And I also love how you're forward thinking about how you could leverage this community, or this community could help other, like maybe the listeners of this podcast, for example, executives and their teams who don't necessarily even, maybe they don't even want to be directly an AI tinkerer, but they want to infuse this ethos in their organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one thing you could do is you can subscribe to our newsletter. We send around, like, imagine, and like we have 7 meetups happening today around the world. Every week there are hundreds of demos that people apply to speak. They get into the meetup, then they apply to be on stage for 5 minutes and take 2 questions, show an innovation and answer a couple questions. That's how we spark the dialogue and create the innovation, and we make it curated so it's a safe space to like share something that like barely works. It's embarrassing so early, right? But that's what gets your mind going, the creative juices. With hundreds of these, every week we send out one email where we pick the top 15, and the top 15 are literally based on what's going on in industry that has relevance, plus the project itself on the video, plus the ratings we got from those experts in those rooms. And we mash all that together. And of course, AI figures out, and I'm like the final eye to sort of pick them. We also allow the city managers to kind of put their thumb on the scale and say, I was in the room and I'm a city organizer. I see demos all the time. This one was amazing. They can kind of add some extra commentary, which is influencing the selection process a little bit. But you get on that newsletter and you're going to see 15 of the most innovative builds, like at the very first moment that you could possibly see them, unless you were in the room.
Okay. Yes. Awesome. And maybe we could reiterate this again at the end too, and how people can connect with you.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I pivot now to another topic on executives' minds?
Sure.
On durability. I'm seeing a lot of folks worry about or debate about durability right now. You mentioned moats as well. Because people don't want to build a product, right, that just gets obsolete in 6 weeks when a frontier company launches the same thing. And so from your point of view, how are builders navigating that trade-off, right, between experimentation and durability?
I think it's hardest for the ones who are fundamentally in the business of making and selling software. But if you're a Fortune 1000 company, unless your business is making software and selling it, you may be in a better position now, right? Because the build versus buy has changed. Like every time your CFO looks at your finances and says, oh, we've got all this SaaS and we've got to renew. And what do you do? A vendor bake off, and you negotiate and you cut seats and suffer, or what do you do, right? But building in-house has not ever really been a viable alternative, because these companies in the Silicon Valley building these best-in-class SaaS, they're amortizing their effort across many customers. Yeah, it's expensive, but relative to the dev costs, it wasn't, and their learnings across multiple customers. But now it's like totally changed. You can now build the software much more easily. Like I do think that there'll be, and we talk about like, oh, the death of SaaS and what are engineers going to do? Oh, they're going to go work for Fortune 1000 companies building agent-first systems, I think. So there's a huge opportunity there to take control of it, which which SaaS software were your staff actually really, really happy with? And so, I love it. It's never the case. It's always like, it goes 80% there. And this is one thing that's super annoying. And if you're building it yourself, you may be able to get something that's like perfect. And that business case to go do that is now feasible. So that's exciting.
Are you in the camp of, like,
What's durable there? Your other parts of your business, your data, your customer list, the network effects, your hard resources, your supply chain, those can't be vibe coded away by a YC founder in Silicon Valley, right?
So what if you are one of those SaaS companies?
That's just the hard thing. I think that is hard.
Because you're speaking about the people who are customers of the SaaS company.
That said, like, okay, I know my business, AI tinkerers, right? I have software. It's completely software. Every touch point, from registering to the post meetup surveys, the video pipeline I described, all these things. But because I'm distributed and it's a human network based on trust and skill, the more I add to that in terms of software that helps people and takes friction away and increases connection between people globally, the harder it is to take away. That network effect is my moat, right? I also have a 4-year head start on you, even though it's easy to code. I do have a lot of code. I have a lot of stuff worked out, a lot of lessons in the user interactions. It would be a lot easier to replicate everything I've built from scratch now than it would have been a year ago. But you're not going to get the network. You're not going to get the connections, the human connections, the relationships, the trust, the stories that will make people stick around, right? So I think that for my business, that's kind of how I think about the software versus what is the moat. The brand is a moat, right? That brand has value. I think that maybe relatively speaking in this world, if software was your competitive advantage as part of your business, relatively speaking, the other things are going to be more important, such as brand.
Okay. What comes to mind for me is like, I wonder how people whose core business is the software, even though they will have the network effects, the customer relationships, how they,
it's hard. Without naming names. I've had some anecdotes that are, I had someone that I'm working with. We have at AI Tinkerers, we have a very small pre-seed fund because, again, I've invested in so many companies that are now sponsors as an angel investor who I met in the network and are now leaders. So we've got some capital to go do that, a little more of that now. But at the same time, like through that, I've seen things where, something's interesting or my partner on that was looking at like, okay, to help us do due diligence or something related to investing, we need a piece of software, and so we tried one that was like even like an AI native one that was actually supposed to be really good. And it got us 80% there. And I said, maybe we should just vibe code something, let's build it. And he's, oh no, that's not our core. And he actually came back to me 2 weeks later and he said, you're not going to believe it, Joe, what I did this weekend. I rebuilt that whole thing. You want to try it? And I tried it and it was better than the software we were paying for. So we stopped paying for that software and we vibe coded our own thing. And now we're adding features to it that make it more integrated with the AI Tinkerers network and more useful for us while we're on it's like built just for us. And I think that's, again, his intuition, even though he's a builder, his intuition was maybe a little off. And I was not sure either. I was like, maybe we should build it. And the only way to figure out where it is to try. And we were both surprised. Oh, wow, it's way more feasible than we thought. Glad we tried, because otherwise, months later, we would have spent hundreds of dollars and been suffering all along with that software provider, right? So
that was only, 80% of the way for you.
Yeah.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah.
The main thread that I love in that story is you don't know till you tinker. Like for all the people in the real world and the media, everywhere debating about, is it a SaaS apocalypse or not?
And the moats, so I invested in something else I met through the network about 3 years ago. Like I had a very unfortunate, but now great, like everything worked out, but intersection with neurology and brain surgery and bad stuff. So I met this, I'm flying to California for our meetup, and I'm looking through the people who want to present, and there was one that was like, I can't believe this. This is like original model trained on EEG data from the brain to read the mind. This is 3 years ago. So I said, we got to meet for coffee because I had a little bit of intersection with the brain world in medical. I want to learn more, but this is really cool. I was like, really? You think you can do this? And he was early enough where the team was there and the approach was interesting, but they hadn't proven it. And it was enough where it was like, think about the moat there. How do you get the data from the brain? It's not crawling the internet, right? The expertise to train the model is one thing, and then the application domain to actually build a business off that capability, I've also not clear yet, but clearly a big idea. So that company also Unstealth, I think a week ago, 2 or 3 years since, raised tons of money. Khosala's involved, Bill Gates is involved, others, and off to the races with the idea of like a consumer cost in the realm of consumer tech thing that you could put in a baseball hat or helmet that will read your mind. No moving of your lips, nothing other than your brain signals. No implant like Neuralink, literally just off the same kind of electromagnetic waves that your brain gives off during an EEG reading, but on a consumer grade hardware. Think of the applications of that, from military to therapy to gaming to, controlling your GoPro while you're skiing, whatever it is. Lots of applications for that, and fundamental technology, a few years ahead of the market. There are others kind of now dabbling in that, and also has done a ton of work on how do you scale getting the data and doing a good job there. So, that business has moats.
So what's the biggest takeaway? Is the biggest takeaway from that?
And that business is called Sabi.
Crazy idea. Sorry, you get conviction in a crazy idea by tinkering, or what's the main takeaway?
Well, no, not necessarily. I think I actually think there's a golden age for people who are deep in a vertical and know the customers well and know the dynamics of the supply chain and the business and et cetera, for them to tinker and discover what's the thing that's going to allow them to move 10 times faster than the incumbents. Every industry regresses to the mean of the way things are done, no matter, at some scale. And AI might be able to break out of that. So it's waiting for the clever person who understands the dynamic of an industry to reinvent it from the inside. I think that's the exciting form of tinkering, I think, with moats.
Oh my God, yes. That reminds me of my last podcast guest, Bob Natu, also a Sloanie.
Cool.
20 years deep in corporate treasury, and now trying to be that one person who's
awesome. Well, I want to meet that person.
Sorry. Can
you introduce? Yeah.
But I love that this gives hope for like many others out there, right? Who have like deep domain expertise from many years as a leader in a field.
And I tell you, like, also it's fun. It is so fun. You feel like you have a magic wand, is what I say. Back 4 years ago, that's what I felt like. As a software engineer, I felt like I have a magic wand now. But now that magic wand is a magic wand over everything that I do. I did my
and also, as you said, non-engineers have that magic wand.
Everyone has it. Non-engineers. So yeah, I did my taxes. I created an app that records me live and gives me feedback on how I'm speaking and gives me advice based on a viral video from an MIT professor's rubric. I created those two things, my tax thing and financial analysis, and the speaking feedback. I did that. Both of those were, if that, a 2-hour project each.
Amazing.
And the result I got was like an incredible app, right? Building it was so fun, and the reward function of having it like meet my need so quickly is like literally addicting.
Oh my God. Maybe
it's the funnest time to build, to be like, anything we can imagine I might be able to make come true, and occasionally does, makes you feel really good. It makes you feel like a sense of freedom and empowerment, and and hopefully also to make money and grow your business. This is the most exciting time to be working.
Well, it's like the new age of creative expression.
Yeah.
Like it's creative expression and monetization in the same thing. Oh,
I've never been happier. I've never worked harder. Really. I'm a hard worker. That's kind of my philosophy has always been like, I'm not the smartest one, so I better be the hardest working. And so I've always worked pretty hard, but I'm telling you, I'm working a lot more than than ever in my career, which is crazy.
Mm,
Just
that is.
because it's so much fun and so impactful.
Oh, I love that you added that last part because it's so
Yeah.
much fun.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I wanted to ask you about the Peter Steinberger OpenClaw example because, as
Yeah.
you mentioned, he's part of the AI Tinkers community, and
Sure.
of course, OpenClaw is so hugely impactful now, and it's just the beginning. So, what were the best learnings from that that could be applied, high value for the folks listening to the
Yeah.
podcast?
Well, I mean, so the story there, like from my perspective of just me, was like it was bubbling up in the community before it sort of hit like the front page news at the towards the end of last year around Christmas and that period, right around when models did a step function change. Peter was tinkering, as I mentioned, for months, and then hit upon a thing that was intuitively useful and new and fresh in a domain that lots of people were tinkering on. So it reminded me of ChatGPT actually, because when we were all tinkering before, and Sam Altman said, oh, I don't know why no one ever built a chatbot before. We're like, no, like there were lots of people building chatbots.
Yes.
But what happened was ChatGPT was released, I think, on the same day as an innovation in their model called instruct fine tuning, which is effectively I ask a question, I get obey my question, I get the answer, obeying my instructions, instruct fine tuning. Before that, to get it to ask a question and get back an answer was really hard. You would ask a question and it would just give you 10 more related questions, literally verbatim. And so people were trying to build chatbots, but to get them to actually do question response was difficult until this innovation happened, which ChatGPT had and then released with their new product. That was enough to make it work and be super popular. In my opinion, OpenClaw was the same thing. In other words, the agents, the frontier models, both Codex and Claude, almost at the same time, late last year, crossed an invisible threshold where if you were just saying, I want you to run a loop and have a goal, and it will figure out how to get to the goal by choosing which tools, running them, backing up if it needs to, correcting mistakes, and it will actually seek the goal. It worked a lot better after like October, November than September. A lot better. So if you were building something like OpenClaw, it's always running. I can just ask it. I can just quickly give it a thing and it'll do a task and come back to me when it's done. There were plenty of people trying to build that experience and startups that were well funded. Lots of them. They never worked that well. So if you were a business and you had one of those startups and you're paying them money, you're like, we tried it. It wasn't that good. If it only works 60% of the time, you kind of get annoyed, right? Or if it screws something up, it could be a liability. Peter's thing worked, but Peter knew that insight because he'd been tinkering with many different projects before that moment. When those models dropped with that innovation, it's like, okay, cancel Christmas. We're going to be building. By the way, I know so many people in the community, myself included, who were coding on Christmas Day because it was like the biggest Christmas gift. Again, at the end of the year, these new models dropped and we're so much better at agentic loop tool calling, planning, that the community was excited. Oh my gosh, what can you do with this? And you can't take Christmas off. You got to go build. So Peter built that, and his thing started to get buzz and talked about. When it was on my radar, I put it on a notepad file. I have things on my radar. It's a huge list, and I bumped things up, and it had bumped up. And I finally okay, I got to check this out. And I remember reading about it, looking at the GitHub repo, and I was like, oh, this guy Peter, he is a tinkerer for sure. And I was just thinking like a tinkerer, not like an AI tinkerer. But I was like, maybe he is an AI tinkerer. He probably is. And I just go to the database. There he is. He's, of course, going to the London meetup. Didn't surprise me at all. So from my perspective, that's what happened is he had the insight of a model, step function change, was tinkering and knew to kind of double down on it. And then it took off. The reason it took off, because it worked a lot better. It actually does feel like magic. It feels like, and it was like a ChatGPT moment in that sense. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Not just chat and get a response while I'm sitting in front of my computer, but actual do real work for me while I'm on the go. And it is the third thing, the last thing I'll say that he got right that no one else did. And again, like all these funded startups, even if you take away the models aren't that good at, even if they'd had the models, everyone was taking a different approach, a safety approach. Yeah, we got to have it. We're going to have it do real work for you, but not unless you authenticate and lock it down and configure it. We wouldn't want it to hurt anyone or send your secrets over the internet or something, right? Peter was just like, at first at least, it was like, screw that. I'm just going to I'm going to give it a dedicated computer. I'm going to let it write and execute code, which in the world of software is like a very, very dangerous thing to do. You're going to trust a computer that has access to your data to write and execute code. It could do anything. Somebody could trick it and it could delete the whole computer, right? But that's what he built. And he built this thing. And again, because its instruction following is so high, what happened with that decision was actually positive for the most part, because you could just say, hey, check the flights for my thing tomorrow. And it'd be like, well, I think you have a flight tomorrow. I have access to your inbox. So I do. Oh yeah, you do have a flight, but I don't have access to like check the flight data or log in, but I think I could figure that out. And it would figure that out. So it was writing code and inventing its own tools. And then people were having these magic experiences where it's like, feels like AGI, this thing just figured out how to get it done. And as long as I'm asking it to do something for me that I want it to do, it's not going to screw me, right? It's not going to destroy my data or leak my secrets. It's not good enough for enterprise. Okay. But for tinkering and personal projects and having a magic moment, absolutely mind-blowing. And that lit a lot of people up, became the fastest growing open source project in history. We got the call from Jensen's team at NVIDIA.
Wow.
Just before GTC. We are NVIDIA's community partner this year.
Okay.
So we got the call from his team. From Jensen down, it was like OpenClaw, Nemotron, marry them together, put it on stage, and then they came to Tinkerers and said, we need demos. We need things we can show or talk about. What do you have? And I went to the community and said, I scoured our database for people who were dinking around in this stuff. And I said, please send me your videos and assets and give me your permission. And we sent it over. And so this is kind of like, it came from my perspective, hit a nerve based on a technology inflection, his decision to make it all powerful, even though that's dangerous. Then it went supernova and escaped orbital velocity and became world famous and picked up by Jensen and paired with Nemotron and on stage. And now it's a super celebrity. Absolutely incredible story.
Okay. Wow, that is amazing. And so if I could reflect back, the top takeaways that could be high value for the folks listening is you wouldn't be able to hit that point if you haven't been tinkering already, right? Because you said, yes. Peter, there's like a lot of forefront and runway.
His intuition around that, where is the state of the art? What is possible? What isn't? Where is the bleeding edge today? And he knew when things dropped, where it shifted to. He had the intuition that you can only earn that particular intuition by building every day, right? That's one for sure.
Yes. And that's like people of all levels, right?
Yeah.
And
2 was moving fast. It was, this came out today, I'm skipping Christmas, I'm building. 3 was taking risks, being bold.
Yes, taking risks. But he built that bold intuition from all the tinkering, I think. Like I don't know, maybe he out the gate was like F safety, but
I mean, it's a hard one. Engineers, we're like, well, but performance, cost, speed, security. It actually takes quite a lot of guts to be like, I'm just trying something, like throw it against the wall. Like if it blows up, well, fine. I think containing it on the Mac Mini and just saying, hey, I can just rebuild it. It was bold, believe me. Again, the perspective was like, I'd seen a ton of things like that. They were all like, it was hard to set up and get it off, but at least, it wasn't going to like delete your inbox. It was like, so, which did happen with OpenClaw very early on, famously.
Yes,
but by removing friction, you make something much more adoptable and much more interesting and useful, right? Too. It's a trade-off.
And another last takeaway I got out of that story that I think would be helpful for others is if you yourself, get these insights from tinkering and you want to accelerate it, you could be like Jensen Huang and ask people like you got like AI tinkerers to help, right? Like do a mashup of whatever,
and I'll tell you, like, he inspired a lot of people and opened up, oh, there's a new modality. This is really useful. Mass market cares and is playing with this thing. And there are problems with it. So now it's galvanized the entire community to go solve those problems. So you have people, as I mentioned, like building the control plane for agents that is secure but can be adopted in that frictionless way, like empowering people in their seats, right? There's a ton of people working on multiplayer. It's great that you vibe coded, with your claw, a like marketing task, but how do I get the rest of the marketing organization to use it and not have them like, hey, I installed your skill, but mine doesn't work anymore because it decided to rewrite the software without telling me. And, we do need controls. We do need standards. We do need to have that be multiplayer. We do need security in enterprise. The good news is the community is working on all of those problems. I'm confident those experts are in the community, and I'm seeing it bubble up through the demos in the database that I have, and we can help you.
Oh, I love that. That's a perfect bridge between, the whole theme of this podcast is to encourage people to tinker themselves, infuse that into their teams way deeper than we might have had historically, and that there's other experts and resources out there to help bridge any gaps or like even more, new value that didn't exist before. Kind of like Jensen Huang and NVIDIA trying to ask for a combination of the Nemotron thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, I know we're shorter on time, so I wanted to ask a few last questions. So going back to your serial CEO and founder, what would you say are the hardest transitions that founders go through that people don't talk about publicly, especially, going from senior executive or operator to founder?
Oh, you're not talking about AI. You're just talking about entrepreneurship now, right?
Yes, that's right. But I guess, since a lot of people are founding in AI, it's probably applicable in that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think that everything is sales, even if you don't call it that. And I think that's a really hard one. You have to like people. You're constantly selling without like being a salesy person. You're trying to help them. The best kind of sales. I'm really trying to help people. So why do I want to help an employee? Because they're going to be more successful and, like deliver more results for this business, help us grow, help us create a care culture, all that stuff. But as a founder, first-time founders especially, it can become overwhelming, all the roles you have, which all have that new, you're trying to please everybody, you're trying to sell, you're trying to influence. It's exhausting. I think that's a tough one. And I think, the reason I use the word sales is like, going back to MIT Sloan, did we have a sales class?
Organizational behavior.
We had a couple classes, but it doesn't feel like a core part of the curriculum.
That's right. I mean, right? We definitely could have used multiple sales classes.
Yeah. I tell you this, like if you're in the early stages of your company, you're either building or selling. Any questions, right? And that's whether it's consumer or enterprise. That's fundamentally what it boils down to. So how do you develop that skill if you're a builder, and if you're a practitioner, now you're starting a business, you're going to have to learn to sell, and it's exhausting. It's hard as a skill. It's not traditionally taught in the business school curriculums. So that's a tough one. You asked what was hard. I think that is, and I said everything is sales, because whether you're actually selling a customer or you're selling your team to get aligned with a vision, getting their buy-in, getting their input, motivating, steering, nudging, encouraging, it's all sales. And then it's your board of directors, fundraising. When the stakes go up and it's stressful and you got your day job running the company, et cetera, plus you've got this existential threat related to your financing, your next round, et cetera, the stress is intense. So I think number 2 is probably just like, how do you manage stress? And
I'm like, do you have any okay, that's the hardest thing. Do you have any?
Well, I'm definitely of the camp, like you shouldn't be a solo founder, have a great co-founder. I've had great co-founders, and that I wouldn't have been able to do it without that. I think I had a friend from Sloan who had one very successful company. And I remember at the beginning of that company, which was a 7-year journey, he said something like, it was starting another company. He was starting the second one after having a multi-year, very challenging, very stressful, and having a good exit where you don't need to work again at all. Like you could just, really great exit, like a multi-$100 million outcome. And then he was starting another company. And I said, and I'm being a founder, you kind of know how hard that is. Are you sure you want to do that again? You're going to start another company and you don't need to. That's a lot of work. What are you going to change about your lifestyle? What are you, how do you think about that? And he said, he had a really good answer. He said, well, the first one, I was like the dad. You know what I mean? It's like hard to raise. This time I'm the grandpa. Like I'm going to have lieutenants and they're going to do, and I'm going to be able to be like the sage, the wise old grandpa guy. I remember I bookmarked that. And then another 7-8 years go by and that company has an even bigger exit. And I got together with him. I said, hey, I don't know if you remember this. And I told him that and he laughed and said, I think what I meant was the first time I was the kid, the second time I was the dad, and next time I'm going to be the grandpa. Yeah.
Like you build on the wisdom, and I mean, he is building his founder. You built too. You build your founder muscle.
I like to think that I've learned things, but it is different every time. I'll tell you that. Every entrepreneurial journey, I thought I'd figured it out, and then I had the third big journey. I was like, wow, new territory uncovered, unbelievable. Having a co-founder is great. You can't bring that stuff home to your significant other. You can't take it to your employees, certainly. You cannot take it to your board of directors. You have to have somebody that you can truly dump it all out and hash it out and, get help. I think, you probably would say an executive coach.
Joe, I was about to say, you know what? I have another option in mind.
Yeah. I mean, it's another one. I don't know what it is about our generation, but like coaching is like you need a therapist. What's wrong with you? You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think the younger generation, what I've noticed is they don't have that. They're like, of course I have a coach. Of course I have a therapist, right? It's like, finally, I think collectively society has matured.
Yes. I mean, I love it's still different for everyone, right? We're heavily influenced by our upbringing. So, yeah. But yeah, I view like, you have whether or not you have co-founders, you have a personal board of advisors.
Yeah.
And that can include your therapist. It can include an executive coach. So nobody has to feel like they're doing it alone.
Yeah.
Like even executives in companies, when you're at the top, right? The only like the CPO or CTO, you can feel alone because you're the only one at the top of your domain.
Yeah. So, if you ever hear somebody ask you, have you thought about having a coach? Or you should maybe consider getting a coach. Do not be offended by that. It's a compliment. It means that person sees potential in you to grow. Michael Jordan had a coach.
Oh yes, all the Olympic athletes and top players I have coaches too. Yeah. I want to tell everyone that I have coaches. Coaches have coaches.
You're worth investing in because you have talent and ambition, and so it's a compliment that someone would suggest that you should get a coach, or that it's a good thing to get a coach. An investment. It's a great thing. See your true potential. Find your zone of genius.
You could be doing sales. Thanks for doing sales for me, even though that's the hard part. Okay, so looking forward to the future, right? As you yourself, as an innovator, and you're navigating this AI moment as well. What are you still figuring out when it comes to where you want to go next and where you want to focus your zone of genius?
Yeah, I mean, so much of the last couple of years have been in a really a medical journey where AI Tinkers was my side project, growing like crazy, organically, beautiful, spending a ton of time on it. Past the medical thing, by the way, just incredible outcome related to my son. He's off, actually. It's the total opposite. Empty nester. He's off at boarding school. And now it's my oyster. It's like, wow, I've kind of built this platform, this community that's very special and quite large. And it was unintentional in a way. I didn't like envision it and work backwards. It just sort of was like gardening, and it happened. And it was a lot of work, and that part was intentional. But the North Star vision of what it is today was not something I envisioned on a whiteboard. It just happened. But now it's there, and I see so much potential. So workaholic, from obsessed with one thing to another. The another is, well, what is the next level of AI Tinkers look like? Have a lot of great ideas. We'll be doing that with a staff of AI employees plus humans, great humans. and hopefully it'll be something pretty inspiring. I'm very inspired. But I could talk about a couple of those things on the people front. Like when I say humans, the AI employees is incredible. I've launched 4 or 5 AI employees in the last 2 weeks, and they're out interacting with the community. One of my AI employees actually got a free ticket to the Stripe conference, a $2,000 conference ticket, dropped in the inbox of my AI employee. Congratulations, we'd like to invite you to our conference.
Oh, because that employee was so outstanding?
No, I don't know. I don't know how, because I don't know how that AI employee's email got on Stripe's list. I don't know how Stripe's system filtered it to deserve a free ticket. I did close to $500 million of revenue on Stripe in the last company, and we do all of our stuff with AI Tinkers through Stripe. And I'm sitting on this community, but I didn't get a free ticket. So I'm really fascinated by these AI employees and the emergent things they do that could be beneficial.
AI employees. I mean, maybe your AI employee is really good at sales.
I don't know what I audited. I tried to, but the point is, like, I am very excited about the leverage I'm getting from that. And I mentioned the video thing and waking up day one with 183 videos. I like how I'm giddy I am, because that's an example of something that I know I couldn't have done with hiring humans. I'm also excited about humans, and that I've learned like a lot about that world, and that's probably your second answer. Like, first is like the managing stress one, and the being sales. Third is like people, like hiring and managing people. How do you assess someone to do a job you've never done, and all this? And I've learned so much there. It's so difficult. On this one, I'm very high conviction. I'm doing the thing where it's like the try before you buy, like people in the community who are stepping up and doing great things and raising their hand. Those are the ones I'm going to hire. 2, they tend to be earlier in their career and more AI pilled than anyone else. So then they're a little bit like, I don't think if we're going to build a line of business in like an expert network or some kind of recruiting thing, I don't think we're going to build that by taking someone who did it in the software 1.0 or software 2.0 version of that. We're going to do the 3.0 version, the AI first version. And I think it's going to look so different that we can get advice from the world of those people, but we're going to have to invent the future. And I think that's going to be best by a very ambitious, very smart, early career AI pilled operator.
Oh my God.
Those are the people that I'm bringing in now to work with me and to build, and it's going well.
Oh, that's great. Because I want to, on that last point, right? I see a lot of talk right now about, there's no jobs for new computer science grads or so your last thing about the people early in their career who are AI pilled, that is a huge opening and reframing on that narrative.
Yeah, for sure. I'm very bullish on fresh grads from computer science eventually. I think right now I'm not as bullish, but there's no question in my mind that will be a huge unlock. And every one of them should be building side projects and coming to our meetups and showing innovation. And all of those that do will get hired right away.
Okay, so everybody out there, if you're an executive and your kid is graduating with CS, tell them to join AI Tinkers. Is that right?
Sure. For sure. And they're unconstrained by the biases of the past ways of doing. They don't even know any better. So they're like Peter is not a young person, but he was brave enough to try things. That spirit, that creative innovation is going to spring from the things we can't imagine. I think these younger kids who grew up internet natives, are in better position to invent the future when it comes to a lot of these new agent first businesses than the people who are steeped in their industries and maybe have graduated into leadership and management and have been builders for a long time. They're at a disadvantage.
Okay. Even though that, the intent of this podcast is we're at an advantage as well.
No, for sure. I mean, like I spent most of the podcast saying, yeah, and go do it. And because your industry, that's an advantage too. But I'm just saying, I don't think you can count the fresh grads out. I honestly don't.
Oh, for sure. The beginner's mind is so powerful, right? That mentality.
Yeah.
And okay. So I wanted to ask to go to wrapping up with 2 fun questions.
Okay.
And also, there was one thing I wanted to say about actually on the last comments. We've been saying AI pilled a bunch of times in this
Yeah.
video. I think that's like a recent lingo.
Mm.
You want to explain that quickly for anyone who doesn't know that?
Um,
I only
I
learned it
don't,
recently.
I don't know that there is an official definition. Mine is just like you have a bordering on unhealthy obsession with and a maximalist attitude towards a future where AI is at the center of everything, and a symptom of that. How do you know that you're AI pilled? Would be, I could just like take this email and go to do a Google search and copy something from a spreadsheet, but I'm instead going to tie my hands behind my back and try to speak into the microphone and get my computer to do it for me. That's AI pilled, where you're like, I'm going to spend more time trying to automate that thing just to see if it's possible. Because if I learn that it's possible, then I don't have to do that thing ever again. And I'm going to be scaling that piece of my world and getting rid of that schlep. I'm AI pilled. I want to embrace it as much as I can. That's the attitude of AI pilled. You believe that, and then at the macro level, you believe that there's enormous opportunities in rewriting entire businesses to be AI first. You believe that so deeply, it's not even debatable. That's AI pilled, I think.
Okay.
There
Wow.
may be a better definition out there. I just kind of made that up. But
I mean, I doubt there is a standard definition.
yeah.
Like many things in AI. I love your definition. I actually didn't know what it meant. I know it means like you're, like bullish on AI and AI addicted.
Yeah. And, I mean, people might hear me say that and be like, oh, this guy, yeah, it hallucinates, it's broken. I used to, I say that, and I would say where it's broken. I've said that in this conversation. I hope that we see that. But because I'm constantly working, and just to give you like a data point, OpenRouter is one of the biggest like brokers of multiple AI model, for API usage. I was the top 1% user of Google Gemini 2.5 last year, all year. And I
Wait,
only used it.
Number top 1%?
Top 1% user of Google Gemini 2.5. I was with AI Tinkerers. My
God.
use of that, and that only was the last 2 months, because I started using OpenRouter the last 2 months. In 2 months of usage, I got top 1%. I was one of the two best users, the highest users of Whisper Flow. I know that because I was in their office and they told me. They invited me in because they said, you're one of our top users. And I asked them, how many people are you talking to? They're like, 2. So it was either number 1 or number 2 of Whisper Flow. That means I'm AI pilled on that tool for sure. It's a great tool, by the way. It allows you to talk instead of type. So yeah, I use it a lot, and I'm constantly sampling and constantly trying to break, and I know what works and what doesn't. My intuition is very high. And when I hear people who aren't in it and using it, embracing it, have skepticism, and they say things like, well, we rolled it out and then no one knew what to type in the chat box and we spent all that money. It was terrible. And so we're pausing that for a while. I'm just like, wow, I'm sorry. Like, because your business is going to be taken over by one of the tinkerers who's building a thing to compete with you. If you have that attitude, because you just don't realize that, like, again, when what happened in November with the model stub function, like most of the pain that you think is static is gone. Most of that's gone. You don't realize that we're on an exponential improvement curve, that like what you read in a blog post 2 months ago and there was all these problems and you made a judgment based on that may not apply anymore, because the whole thing got improved so much in 2 months that it rendered that irrelevant. If your understanding doesn't include that curve that we're on, then you just don't get it. That's the opposite of AI pilled. So AI pilled doesn't mean fanatically lunatic obsession, cult like belief, suspend disbelief. It means informed by tinkering to see the values real and to invest in that. That's what it means.
Oh my God. I love your AI tinkering spin on AI pilled. And who better to tell us what AI pilled means than an AI pilled person who's like in the top 1% of all these cutting edge frontier tools. So I love that. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so let's go to the quick closing questions. One, what's a cool use of AI you've discovered recently that you think could be highly valuable to the folks listening?
A cool use of AI. That's kind of a tactical thing, but I'll share it anyways. For those who are dabbling in like Claude Code or Codex, where you like go to the command line and just talk to the computer build software, a lot of times you're in this session where you're like, go to this folder where we have our financial reports and read every single one of them and then reformat it and put it in a spreadsheet, and you're doing workflows, right? And then one thing you can do as a quick hack is just like, excuse me, ask it to like go the extra mile to check its work and to like build a report telling you everything it did, and to format that like an HTML file to look like an article in the Economist magazine with charts and graphs. And so it'll do all the work for you, and it'll also do that piece. And so it's crunching for like half an hour. And then you say at the end, you say, when you're done making that report for me, open it. And then suddenly your browser just opens, boom, and you get this beautiful like executive memo of what the AI did for you, which I find like a great hack, because the complicated stuff I was doing with all these steps, it's been told I need to explain that to someone in a way that's easy to follow, and it has the key points there and it has visualizations, and it's like a joy to read that. So that's something I do all the time. That's a great hack. Other uses
What's
of
the purpose behind that?
the purpose of that is just to make working with the AI easier,
So that you understand what it's doing and build your intuition, or
Yeah, or if you just to consume, if you're a visual person and you like to consume stuff in a lean back fashion, if you're working with the AI, it's doing a lot of work for you. It'd be like if you had an employee that was doing a complicated project and you're like, come in and present it to me. I want to see visuals. I want to see the story arc. I want to see the beginning, middle, the end, the conclusions, the next steps. You can ask the AI to build that for every little project you do. And it's like, I don't see a lot of people doing that, but I found it very valuable. Helps me to file things away in my mind and come back to them, right?
Yes, like building your intuition, even though you're not coding, right?
Yeah. Another one that's overlooked, I think, is Gemini. No one talks about Gemini right now.
Yeah, that's right. We've been saying Claude and Codex.
Claude, Codex. I'll tell you this, Gemini, completely overlooked in two areas. One is invoice, text to speech. Absolutely incredible. Anyone who says that, our voice bot sounds like an AI it doesn't need to. With Gemini, you can make voices have personality and sound empathetic or funny or serious. And for different use cases, that's super valuable. They're just state of the art with that. I've tested all of them, including all the open source, et cetera. They're the best. It's cheap. It's fast. It's incredibly high fidelity. People are sleeping on that. Another one with Gemini, I think people are sleeping on to a lesser extent, is a video analysis. I'm going to take this whole recording, by the way.
Okay.
I've already planned this, and I'm going to upload it to Gemini, and I'm going to ask Gemini to give me feedback on my public speaking and my tone and my body language, and it will be able to do all of that. The video analysis of Gemini can see how I'm moving, how I'm talking, it can listen to the tone of my voice, emotion, facial expressions. It can analyze all of that. It's like having a private like speech coach.
Yeah, like a media coach.
Amazing. Yeah. Because I want to get better if I have these opportunities to speak in front of people.
Me too.
Why not? Right. I don't have the time to find and evaluate and hire that person. So it's incrementally to benefit my life. I'm going to use Gemini for that. Super easy and incredibly good. So that's amazing. And by the way, the next level above that is I'm also going to feed it internal documentation about AI tinkerers. I'm going to feed it our brand and style guide, our North Star document internally, our goals. I'm going to feed it other information so that its feedback can be nuanced. It could be like, hey, when you were answering the question from Christina, you could have subtly mentioned that, and it will bring in the context from my business. So it'll be like, having the world's best speech coach, but also the most intimate executive at my company happens to be the world's best speech coach. That's incredible. But you can't do that with any other model than Gemini, that particular use case with video, to my knowledge.
Currently at least.
Yeah.
As you said, nobody is more than 2 or 3 months ahead of anyone else. But
another hack, this is more on the development side, but like, I'm not a great front-end developer. I'm certainly not a great designer. every single application and page on the entire AI Tinkerers website got redesigned over Christmas break and shipped within a week. That's a multi-month project with a lot of risk because you could break interfaces. What?
Yeah, what was the hack? I think a lot of people would love this.
The hack was Google released a product called Stitch. I swear I'm not like pimping Google. Since then, Anthropic has released one for front-end design work for designers. But using tools like that, literally, I would just screenshot a page or a tool and I would paste it in and I would just say like, make this look better. And it would. And then I would take the resulting design, which is just a visual, and I would screenshot that and put it back into my coding agent, which has the full context of my entire code base, the repository, all the documentation, my standards, my dev process, and it would just figure it out. But then with the risk of like changing your whole design, and layouts of a page, you're going to break something like, the data flow or something might get lost or hidden that users need. So I would say like, test, every single change. And then it's my first hack around the report. I would have this run and I would say, oh, when you're done, I want an HTML page, a long one that walks me through all the work you did. So every time you do a piece of work, I want you to document it. Then I want you to screenshot every change before and after so I can see the visuals side by side. Right. And so I did this for all of my pages. That's why it took 2 weeks. It was like this copy and paste and wait for over 2 weeks here and there while on Christmas break. But by the end of it, I'd redesigned and shipped every single page of my website. And every time I built something, I had this beautiful report that showed me before and after. So I could be like, oh, I don't like that. That's too prominent. And it would just refresh the report while doing all the changes. And it would also say, here's the things I tested. And oh, this one broke, but then I found the bug and I fixed it. And just sort of give me the assurance that it did a good job, right? Just incredible.
Oh, again, back to like that executive thinking of having like an employee present to you.
Yeah.
What the changes were.
It's the greatest thing because you can be the world's most annoying micromanager and the AI will just be like, sure, no problem.
Sure, I will tell you the 10 detailed things that I changed and why.
Yeah.
Okay. And actually, I wanted to ask you quickly about Whisperflow because you said you're in the top 1% users for that. And I also heard Mark Andreessen say he loves that tool. So what's the best thing about that tool for folks who haven't tried it yet?
So what it is just install it under I think they have a mobile version too. You install it on your computer and it runs as part of the OS. You can assign a key. I think by default, it's like the function key. And whenever you want to type, instead, you just press the key and start talking out loud. And release the key, and whatever you were saying will be immediately pasted into wherever your cursor was. That's all it is. But it does an exceptionally good job of speech to text, like spelling names right. And it actually looks at, it can be configured. You don't have to do this, but it can look at the screen around the cursor. So if I was talking to you, and if your name was spelled with a K instead of a C, it would see that spelling near the input box where I'm typing a text message to you. Like if I was in iMessage and your name was in my address book as Christina with a C, and I typed like, hey, Christina, do you want to go to lunch tomorrow? It would spell your name right.
Oh, wow.
So it has a lot of intelligence built in to do that. And you can also do things like, hey, Christina, you go to lunch? Oh, no, I meant dinner. And it'll sort of just autocorrect to be like, hey, Christina, do you want to go to dinner tomorrow?
As opposed to
it won't do the verbatim. So it lets me be kind of loose. And again, it's this empowerment and freedom, like a lot faster than typing, so I use that all the time.
So is that why it's high leverage? Like it's a lot faster than typing? Like high leverage?
Yeah, I think so. And, the embarrassing thing about like coding now is like you start a project, you're iterating, and then it kicks off a thing and it's running on your computer. Then you have a meeting. It's like down the street at a cafe. So you have your laptop cracked open like that.
Yes.
And you're walking with your laptop open. And then something stops and it asks a question you have to clarify. So you're walking. What do? You press the key and you talk to your computer. You're outside walking down the street. Oh, revise that screen again. Get rid of that button. And then you let go your finger and it starts working again. And people are looking at, what is that guy doing?
Oh,
what are you doing, man? That's so weird.
So it's like an on-the-go hack too.
Well, no, it's just if you're using it on the go, they have a mobile app. That's what you should really do. But no, it's a very convenient. And I actually see in the Tinkerers community a ton right now. Like as I mentioned before, the open models are getting good, closing the gap, and even lightweight models that run fast, can even run on your computer or your CPU. Even some of them, people are now experimenting with like, well, do I really want to send everything I talk to the cloud? Who are those guys? Do I trust them? What if I could do exactly that Whisper Flow app, but on my computer, never leaves my computer, totally secure. So I actually see multiple tinkerers right now experimenting with that idea and bringing things to stage, and in certain cases open source. And that's again like inspired by something, and then you go build a different version or embed it into your application flow somehow. Like it's an exciting time when the cost of building goes down, that you can be inspired by other people's work and remix and create just an explosion of creativity.
Oh my goodness. So many opportunities and possibilities.
It's really fun.
Okay, so last question. What's something cool outside of AI that you're excited about and might be, highly useful for others as well?
Outside of AI that's useful, like still work stuff, or what?
You're like nothing?
What? Hobbies?
You're like nothing is useful outside AI. It could be for anything. It could be for personal.
I don't know. All of my time, to be honest, has been spent on parenting and AI. It's like, I spend a lot of time. My son's, as I mentioned, off at boarding school, and just talking to him or following his, progress at school. And I do quite a bit on that. When I'm going to travel, I do lots of extensive travel planning now, and I use AI for that. But it's really to find stuff to pull me out of the digital and to be really present. But I want to find stuff off the beaten path and create do all the schlep work that normally, if you're going to plan to do your own like itinerary while you're traveling, it's a lot of work. But if you hire a tour company, it's like super boring and like get all the tourist places. So there's no way around a lot of work. I use AI to augment that and do some really off the beaten trail stuff. I enjoy that a lot. Looking forward to the actual trip. Do a lot of photography. I've been shooting film. There's a trend that's probably like in my house, I have no digital, there's no Alexas, there's no LED screens.
Okay.
I don't want technology in my face at home. I want to cook a steak on a fire, and I want digital nowhere.
Cloud Cow, which is a company around steak.
That's true. Eat a lot of steak, a lot of very good meat. But I tend to like when I'm unplugged, I like to have no digital and no technology and just really connect and be present.
I love that. Okay. So that is exciting. That, one who is so AI pilled intentionally designs your physical environment to be fully present and not cluttered with digital.
For sure.
Okay, great. Okay, so Joe, for people who want to connect with you and, explore maybe more ways that they could work with or connect with AI tinkerers, or, any other reason why they want to connect with you, because you have so many amazing insights, what is the best next step?
I mean, we'll connect with me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear your biggest challenges and problems. I'd love to, if there's the one thing I have is a very large, very global network of very, very top and very well informed like AI people who are building in every area, and I'd like to help them by helping you. So I want to know what your biggest problems are and challenges, and try to be helpful. I just want to be helpful to people. So
the best way is to connect with you on LinkedIn? I
think connect with LinkedIn, or ask Christina to make an intro if you know her, or you connect with me somehow. Have your AI call my AI. We'll figure it out.
I can definitely make an intro. You're also on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Oh yes. We don't even know what possibilities might come out of, people connecting with you. This is like the tip of the iceberg, I feel like.
Yeah.
And so if anyone listening wants to connect with me, like if you're a CEO, founder, or senior executive who's navigating strategic clarity or self-doubts, like in your team's AI transformation in this moment, and you want to optimally steer your team's tinkering and experimentation to the highest leverage paths, right? Because there's one thing in terms about having this tinkering ethos, which is awesome, but we also at some point want to be high leverage with it. This is where I work privately with clients, like you, as a strategic sounding board and executive coach. Because as we all know, when the ladder is on the right wall, that's when we get compounding leverage in the right directions. So if you're not sure your ladder is on the right wall, or your ladder is on the wrong wall, those are the times that I could help you most. And the next step would be to reach out directly to me or book a call on LinkedIn as well. So, okay, let me see if there's any questions from the audience. I don't see any questions right now, but we welcome people to put questions in the comments in the LinkedIn live event. And we can always answer them after the show. So Joe, this was incredible. That was like, you shared so many amazing nuggets. Being the top Gemini 2.5 and Whisperflow, top 1% user, and also just pioneering in this movement of AI tinkerers before, most people were even into AI. Way back in the day is, it's amazing to have your perspective. And what stood out to me is like there were a lot of messages of hope in our conversation. Everything from the start, from when you said you're only 2 or 3 months behind or ahead of anyone, so just jump in there and swim, to the possibilities where maybe someone listening, their company might want to work with AI tinkerers the way Jensen and NVIDIA are trying to work with your team as well. And to your unique take on what AI build means. And really explaining, because that is a major mindset shift for a lot of people. Like, I think even people like me who are really into AI, like listening to you talk about what it means to be AI build, like you could tie your hands behind your back and that's how you like force yourself to figure out. That was really like visceral, unique take. So I wanted to thank you so much for sharing all these excellent, non-obvious insights that I think will spark a lot of people's minds.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. It's great to connect with you again, Christina.
Yes. And so thank you everyone for joining us today or on the replay. Wishing you your best energy and highest leverage in your zone of genius always.
All right. Thank you.